Hello, and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, divorce support for dads, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval, and I'm your host. I created this podcast and the Divorced Advocate community as a result of my own high conflict divorce, and because you as a dad deserve all the resources necessary to thrive through this challenging time. I encourage you to check out our website at thedivorcedadvocate.com, where there are resources that correspond to this episode, as well as free access to our membership community, where you will find live meetings, free workshops and courses, private discussion groups, and more. And now, on to this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in again this week, and I'm excited to spend over the next few weeks chatting with some good friends of mine who are going to be putting on a conference here in the Denver metro area, and I am highlighting some of the speakers on that event on this show for the next few weeks, because it is something that if you are local here, should definitely check out. And even if you are not local and you want to come in and check it out, is going to definitely be worth it. But before we get into the details of that and I introduce my guests, let me welcome some of the new guys to the Divorced Advocate community. That is Neil, Shane, Mitesh, Santa, and Zach. Welcome to the Divorced Advocate community. If you're not yet a member of the community, check out thedivorcedadvocate.com. Got all kinds of resources from free to paid to wherever you're at and whatever you need in your divorce. The divorce quiz is still there, and that is a great tool for you to check out where you're at in your divorce compared to others who have gone through it. So check that all out at thedivorcedadvocate.com. All right, my guest today has spent his 30 he's just barely 30, so I don't know how he's had a 30-year career in sales and marketing. During that time, he's cross-trained in multiple areas, including advertising and branding, business development, B2B and B2C sales, legal services, male wellness, retirement planning, and public speaking. By day, he is a membership advisor with Wealth Counsel, and that is an organization supporting estate planning law firms across America with drafting software, education, and training. And by night, which is where I know him mostly, he is the founder of BeMen, a nonprofit organization focused on male wellness. And BeMen is a call to action to reach the gentleman hero and warrior inside all men. Please help me in welcoming Zachman. How are you doing, my friend?
Good to see you, Jude. Super excited to be here with you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm super excited about your guys' event coming up here on the 24th, the Men's Summit, the Masculine Empowerment Network Summit, and it's going to be just an awesome thing. You got what, seven speakers?
On that. We've got 7 speakers. We're gonna kind of bookend it with a keynote to start and a keynote to finish, and then we've got 5 in the middle. And the platform or kind of the presentation format is kind of piggybacking off of like a TEDx type format, where each guy's gonna have about 20 minutes. So this isn't going to be long-winded, bore you, put you to sleep kind of stuff. Each guy has an angle about male wellness based on their own lived experiences and the expertise that they've been working on for 10, 20, 30 years in their lives. And they're just going to hit it hard, right? We're going to go slice right through all the layers. And then we'll have a mid-morning break, a mid-afternoon break, an extended lunch. We're going to serve up a continental breakfast. So if I was going to kind of summarize it in one word, connect. We really want men to have a chance to connect.
Yeah, let me read the description you guys have put together, which I think is fantastic, and it's Masculine Empowerment Network. The Masculine Empowerment Network fosters healthy masculinity across communities and families through honest dialogue and mutual encouragement. And this event will examine men's issues and work toward solutions without political, religious, financial, or personal agendas. Men's challenges have never been greater than now, but great things happen when men rise up to lead their families and communities. You are on this planet for a purpose, and you are not alone. I think that's fantastic. It's one of the things that we talk about here about being fathers and how important it is in our kiddos' lives, particularly, but also in the general world in being dads and being men. And so it's awesome that you guys are doing that. I'm so excited for it. It is on August 24th, Saturday, August 24th from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And if you listen through all the way to the end, we'll give you information on how to get involved with it, how to buy tickets and where to find it. And we'll also include that in the show links on whatever platform you're listening. So before we get into, I want to just give a little, I want you to talk a little bit about what you're going to be presenting at the summit, which is the 5 pillars of male wellness. But before we get into that, share with the audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what prompted you to start BeMen.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Reader's Digest condensed version, because as you know, this is your passion, my passion. We could talk for weeks about this.
Right.
So 20 years ago, I go through separation and divorce. Unknowingly, though, I do 3 of the 3 items that are in probably the top 5 most stressful life experiences on any therapist or counselor's list. I move out of my home that we've been in for 10 years. We change our marriage, right? It's now estranged, separation, headed towards divorce. And I launched my own company. I decided to kind of pivot. I had been in marketing and branding for a while, and I decided now was the time. I'd been planning that for 6 months. Well, that was like a recipe in disaster. I had no foresight. I jokingly, not jokingly, have told people for 20 years I was walking into the perfect storm, and I didn't even bother to go by Walmart and get an umbrella and a rain jacket. You know, I had no idea, no foresight what I was about to get myself into. And boy, it was tough. It was really tough. Like any one of those life experiences can be plenty for a man on his plate. To do them all simultaneously, it took me to my knees. And when I got over the survival stage, it brought up a question that kept coming into my mind. And the question was, where do men go in our adult years when the crap hits the fan? And I didn't have a good answer. So I started researching, and it led me to primarily bars or churches seem to be the most prevalent answers. Now, bars are problematic for obvious reasons. Churches sometimes can be problematic for very subtle reasons. And the reason I asked that question was because I had everything kind of laid out for me. I grew up in white suburbia, middle income America. I had good parents, good teachers, good pastor, good education. All that stuff was laid out for me. I kind of jokingly say I had the pewter spoon in my mouth, and it brought me to my knees. And so I was thinking, well, what happens to other men? Like, what happens to other men that don't have everything perfectly aligned for them? And you start to research, and man, the statistics are just jaw-dropping. Divorced men suffer suicide rates 3 times higher than married men. That was the first one that got me. And so, as we do in the information age, I'm like, well, I'll just GTS this, Google that stuff, because there's stuff out there, I'm sure. I couldn't find anything, Jude. I mean, I did find stuff. I just didn't find anything I wanted to be a part of. I found, here's how to decimate your former spouse. I didn't find the divorced advocate, unfortunately. I found here's how to decimate your former spouse in family court law. I found anger. I found aggression. I found, agendas, strategies. And I was like, man, I don't like any of this. So it seemed like I just started talking. That was sort of my self-therapy, and people were intrigued. And we started having some gatherings and some talks, and it seemed like we'd build a divorced men's support group. Except no man wants to sign up for that club. It's not a destination. It's a stopover, as you well know, in coaching the men you work with, right? Nobody wants to live and breathe in that space for decades. So it really kind of evolved over time into more of a men's organization. And then, we've kind of honed it into 3 layers. There's a public-facing website. There's an online group community in Facebook. And then we try to create experiential events. And what I mean by experiential is we're trying to move men inside, not just outside, not the superficial, hot women, fast cars, briefcases of cash. It's more like we'll do a continuity event called Beers, Bros, Bucks, and think like happy hour with a purpose. And like July, our theme was focus. How do we as men focus in America right now?
Awesome, man. Yeah, and I've been involved and been to the meetings, and it's definitely a necessity, and I know that. And I say this because we talk about this on the show all the time, is surrounding yourself with other men, particularly when you're going through this difficult challenge. And I know that your heart is around that. That's why BeMen is around, so that so that we all men have a support system around all of the time, because we isolate or we self-isolate, or we get into our families and we just get siloed or whatever it might be. And so, so man, it's just such a credit, and you do such phenomenal work, my friend. I'm in all of you, and I'm proud of you, and I love you, and really appreciate what you do. So on that note, let's talk about what you are going to talk about on August 24th, which is the 5 pillars of male wellness. This is something, man, that I harp on all of the time on this show. Yeah. I have like a different way to present it, with like the four legs of a stool: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. But it all kind of falls into, all of your stuff falls into those same 4 categories that I talk about. And it is absolutely, positively, probably the number one thing that when I'm coaching guys and talking with guys, that I emphasize with them, because there's nothing else that they can do for their children or their families or their lives or post-divorce or anything, unless they take care of themselves first, right? It's the oxygen mask, put it on yourself first analogy, as opposed to doing somebody else. And I know I was the poster boy for this, not taking care of myself, trying to be super dad, wasn't taking care of myself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, until it almost killed me. Right. And so let's talk about these five pillars. Maybe first you can tell us what the 5 pillars are, and then we'll just and so everybody's listening, you're not getting all the information today. Zach, we're just you got to come on August 24th and hear the real talk and all the details around it. We're just going to be touching on each one of those 5 pillars, but they're really important.
We'll give you an appetizer, but you're not getting the 5-course meal.
Exactly.
And by the way, I have to interject here as we roll into this. For those who don't know, like leaders need support, and Jude is a leader in this space. A couple of years ago, and it's probably been more than a couple of years, I was blessed to meet Jude. We now co-host those Beers, Bros, Bucks events. Jude provides the space for us, because it's so difficult as a nonprofit to find spaces that aren't $300 a night or $500 a night and breaking the bank. I just love what you're doing. And, divorced advocate, like you're in the wound. And instead of being the salt in the wound, you're the salve in the wound, right? You're meeting men right in the moment of destruction, when it's raw and it's real and they don't know what to do. They've never been trained. They don't have the skill set or the tool belt, as we talk about, to prepare them in any way, shape, or form for what they're about to go through. And meanwhile, they've been told they don't have any emotions, and now emotions are just, it's a hurricane of emotions. So I love your heart for men, and the fact that you're willing to roll up your sleeves, get your fingernails dirty, and just stay in the ugly spaces with guys and be there with them. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. And and I appreciate the compliment, and I accept that for sure. But one of the things that really drives this for me is when I see guys like you, what you just described and what you went through. I know what I went through and the difficulty and the challenges. And I also know what a blessed life that both of us and a lot of the other guys that are regulars in our group have also. And so bringing this message to the guys that are in the thick of it, that, like you said, it's an open wound or, broken open, is just a huge thing. So there's hope, and
that's awesome. Hope, lots of hope, guys. So to start giving you a few pieces, is we were trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we get this message out about BeMen? Because BeMen is just textually, it's a call to action. We've all heard this, man up. So it was be a man. But what does that mean in 2024? Like, who's teaching us how to be men? There was no classes in school. Sort of they touch on it in church, but, unless you like won the lottery and your dad's going to be Father of the Year award, like, I don't know where we're not learning it on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, social media is not providing it. So we were trying to figure out in the information age when we're just all overwhelmed, right? How do we boil this down to some sort of essence, something just simple, straightforward? And we were thinking about, okay, 5 areas, and like you were starting to mention. So there's your emotional, your financial, your mental, your physical, and your spiritual health. And pillars, we called them pillars, thinking back to all that we know about history and archaeology and stuff. And you saw all these amazing buildings over time. A pillar is supposed to help you be grounded, have a foundation to build upon, to have balance. And so really feel like that's the helpful thing for guys, right? When you're not feeling balanced, when you're feeling frantic, frenetic, overly emotional, it's really hard to have equilibrium, right?
Yeah. So describe for me then what this first one, emotional intelligence.
Yeah. So we have kind of tags around these. So we talk about emotional intelligence, and I know, guys, we've heard a lot about that. Well, we need EQ, not IQ. But really, it's
that's a big thing these days. You hear that a lot, and I'm on the dating apps some of the times here too, and it's like the I want is EQ. Okay, all right. Well, what is that? What do you, and so that's different for different people. But so for in this context, what is?
Yeah, and you know what? Let's poke fun a little bit at the culture right now, because we go from, men just have no emotions. They're overly stoic. The only time you see a grown man cry is when his dad dies once in 50 years of adulthood. And then, then we flip flop, right? And then we want this super emotional guy. No, they don't. And guys, if you haven't been there, I promise you, Jude's done this. I've probably done this. When you crumble as a man and you lose it and you're an emotional amoeba curled up on the floor, you better have picked the right woman to be around you, because they're not used to that. They watch that happen and they will freak out and run for the hills. So it's not that they're saying we want you to be overly emotive and act like a woman. I think what emotional intelligence to me is breaking down that stereotype of, we've sort of been led to believe we don't have emotions, or if we have emotions, repress them. And repressed emotions in men are literally and figuratively killing us.
Yeah.
And so it's really opening up to say, okay, I'm human. Doesn't matter which gender, I'm human, so I have emotions, first and foremost. Okay, so I'm allowed to have emotions. And then what does that look like? And if I allow myself to have emotions, then when it hits me, whether that's joy or anger or, whatever the emotion is, it doesn't feel like, I've jokingly said, it feels sometimes like the movie Aliens. Like it's this out of body experience. I had this emotion the other day, Jude, and it like climbed up out of my sternum and blood was splattering everywhere. And it was an out of body experience. And I didn't know what to do with myself. It's like, well, you had an emotion back. Oh, what are those?
That's funny. Well, and so it's safe to say when guys come to listen to you on the 24th, that you're not going to be teaching them how to be more like women with their emotions. You're just going to talk about emotional intelligence in the context of male wellness, which is, and we might touch on this a little bit here also in mental toughness, but is a lot different. And a lot different than maybe even in some of the therapeutic realms these days. And I know we've had these conversations in some of our BBB meetings and stuff. Guys do this very, very differently than women do it. And so listening and talking with somebody like you that has experienced it, has done the work around it, is versed in it, guys, is really, really a great opportunity to really start to hone and understand that if you're having what Zach described, this feeling like, wow, this is strange, and hey, and we're laughing at it, but there was a time for each of us, and I'm speaking for myself, but I know you well enough to know this is true, that like this was new for us too, right? Like, oh
Yeah.
man.
The pinnacle moment for me, I had a panic attack at 34, 3 days
Mm.
after we signed our divorce papers. It took 18 months. Dude, I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
I'd never felt anything like that physically. And athlete to athlete, broken bones on a football field, torn ligaments on a basketball court. Thought I was dying. Thought I was having a heart attack. And like a month later, finally kind of peeled the onion, and it was like, oh yeah, you had a panic attack, Zach. Well, I've never suffered, thankfully, from anxiety. And I was like, what's that? And then I come to find out people have those, not just one in their lifetime. Like they live with that, and they might have one a month or one a week or one a day. And I'm like, oh my God, people live with this? I literally thought I was checking out at the age of 34. So emotions are incredibly powerful things, like incredibly powerful. And so to have a sense of this could happen, and to have a sense in the moment of, okay, and I'm going to just kind of roll with it, whether it's, a thunderstorm or a lightning bolt or it feels like an avalanche, and have faith and trust that I will come out the other side, and then reach out, guys. Isolation is intuitively what you think to do, and it's the absolute wrong thing to do. You want to lean into iron sharpens iron, or one of those cliches, we're all leave no man behind. In your worst moment, that is not the time to wander off into the forest and, as I jokingly call it, do the old yeller and curl up under a tree.
Yeah, right. Awesome, dude. So the next one, the next pillar is financial freedom.
Woo, yes, huge, right? Pre-COVID, I was in retirement planning. You can't even make up these stories. I did another set of threes. They say things come in threes. I had lost my business, lost my girlfriend, and then my grandmother died. And I was literally in a counselor's office writing her obituary from my perspective as the eldest grandchild. And at her funeral, I met a man who's a CEO of a financial company that believed in financial education to the nuclear family, to middle income. And he met with me a couple of weeks later. He said, "You're an amazing public speaker, Zach." And I said, No, I'm not. I thank you. But, that was just an emotional story about my grandma. He said, "No, I'm telling you, you have a gift. And I want you to come train under me. I'll be your mentor. And we're going to give these financial workshops to people." And man, in 10 years, I learned we all know money is one of the 4 taboo subjects, which, by the way, I think those are completely horse crap. I don't get it. But money is essential. Like people who say, well, money but doesn't make you happy. Okay, but do you think poverty does either? I like Zig's quote, right? Money doesn't matter all that much, but it ranks right up there with oxygen on the need to have it list. Right. So until you build your own country and have your own currency and live on your own planet, let's just deal with what we have today. And currency makes the world go round. So guys, financial freedom, debt is indentured servitude in my mind. That's how you basically are enslaved to others about money, and you have absolutely no freedom. And so learning as fast as humanly possible financial literacy, and then starting to apply those basic, and it's actually pretty simple, as you know, right? Like make more than you spend, save the difference. And we try to overcomplicate everything as humans, and let time work for you. So we'll talk about a few of those basic financial principles. And I know for me, and guys might think, well, you don't know what you're talking about, Zach. You've never. Oh, I have. 14 years ago, I declared both Chapter 7 and 11, personal and business bankruptcy, and lived in my parents' home at the age of 40 for a month. And didn't tell my former spouse because I figured she'd strip me of my rights with her children because I had no money to support them. So I've had nothing at the wrong times in life. And then I've also had moments where I just have surplus. And of those 2 places, guys, I can tell you I felt much more grounded, much more peaceful, much more of a man when money was not an issue.
Yeah. And some might be thinking while you're talking about this, this makes sense, right? Financial freedom, that's pretty basic, et cetera. But there are those of us that never learned any of this stuff. It's not something that's taught in school. And if you didn't have parents that either were not very financially savvy themselves, or didn't think that you should teach this, or didn't think to teach this to you, then you don't really know and understand. And that was me. And I made all the mistakes and got in debt and all of that stuff, and had to figure this out on the fly and unravel it too. So yeah, it's important stuff. It's really stuff. Unfortunately, we're talking about at our age, that hopefully kids, at our kids are approximately the same age, but our kids' ages are getting more education around, instead of having to make those mistakes.
Right.
So,
like, you're teaching your girls who are teenagers and my sons who are college age. But I mean, speaking personally, guys, I mean, I'm a jock who grew up, who got an econ degree. I went to a really good college, the Colorado College down in Colorado Springs, and got a Bachelor of Arts in Economics. In my 40s, when I started peeling back the onion of the financial system, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail on August 24th about this, I can't even tell you on this podcast how many things in a decade I learned that I didn't know. First, I was surprised. Then I was kind of stunned. And then once I got over that, I got angry. I was angry. How in the world am I 40 years old, grew up in the United States of America, got the education I got, even got a Bachelor of Arts in Economics, and I don't know some of the back channel basic principles, strategies, and understanding the money system and the money game, because that's how I think about life as an athlete, that exists in America. And if you don't know, it's like playing Monopoly, except we're going to play, but I forget to tell you the rules, Jude. Do you think I'm going to beat the pants off you?
Yeah, right.
So if you don't know the rules to the money game, how are you supposed to win a game that you don't even understand?
Yep. Amen, my friend. And I want to point out, there's very few of us that have bachelors of arts in economics. Because mine is a Bachelor of Arts in Economics also. Yours is usually it's a Bachelor of Science, which is a completely different way in thinking about economics. But anyway, we could,
good point.
Digress
that's
into economic. Yeah, that's why we gravitated towards each other. Anyway, let's get on to the next one. Mental toughness.
Yeah, I mean, it's cliche, right? I just get and that kind of goes back to that whole man up. So guys, I want to tell you that my intent with BeMen is to kind of be a cliche list. So when we say, I think words tell stories, and many times the words aren't even the actual definitions. Like, you look up toughness in Webster's, and that might be a totally different definition than when we say, well, man should be tough, right? Or how about this one? Nice guys. If we had more nice guys, the world would be a better place. We don't mean nice. We mean nice guys finish last because they're beta, because they don't have a spine, because, they're not standing up for themselves. So toughness around your mental state is understand that the strongest muscle in the entire planet is right here. This drives everything. And literally people will die if their, mental health is not where it needs to be. So working on your mind, educating yourself, knowledge is power. Empowerment, masculine empowerment network. The more knowledge you gain, the more power you have. And others in the system can't take advantage of you. And we're not just meaning necessarily stoic. Well, mentally tough guys is lone survivor. No, because you've met him, Jude. I know in the work you've done, and so have I. Occasionally, not a lot, but you talk to guys in the military who are like special ops. A couple of them, totally private. Don't use my name, Zach. They'll tell me, man, it psychologically messed me up for life. So mental toughness is really understanding your mind is going to drive your body and your heart and your soul. And that's a ripple effect into the rest of your life. So the harder you work on your mind, being calm, being straightforward, being logical, being strategic, it'll help ground you.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into too much detail, but I do want to also point out that takes time, right? Just like, developing mental toughness is a product of doing things and learning skills and having the tools to have mental toughness, just like it is becoming tough yourself in your body, right? Like building your body up, or in the gym. And you don't just read a book and then you're mentally tough, right? Like it's a skill set that you learn to become mentally tough. And so I get this we get guys oftentimes, and it was the case with myself, being very codependent, that you're down on yourself and you just want and having the male mindset of wanting to just fix it like that, right? You want, like, how do I fix it? Like, give me the book or the course, or where do I go? And it just takes time. So don't beat yourself up about it. Getting mentally tough takes time, which, and we could go down this rabbit hole too, which is unfortunately not being taught to the young men these days of how to be tough. Now, I wasn't taught it either, and it's not just societal now. I think it's probably even less so now because life's a little bit softer, I would say, than it has been in previous generations. So mental toughness was born out of just having to learn how to be mental tough the hard way, mentally tough the hard way. Now that's not even really a necessity unless somebody goes through something that's difficult, like you described, a divorce or a death or a bankruptcy or financial or something like that. So I mean, that's huge. That is huge. I mean, they're all huge, but that's definitely a big one that we need as to teach our young men. For us, that as older men, and it's also a never ending thing, right? Like we are still learning, and I know you and I have lots of conversations, and all the guys, we have lots of conversations around this. But it's a continual thing. There's not a goal line. You're not going to get to the finish and then say, Zach, you are officially mentally tough, right? It's just like an ongoing thing.
It doesn't work like that. It's not like, oh, and then I finished my master's and my PhD in mental toughness, and here, let me show you my certificate on the wall. I got it August 20th of 2020. Right. Or it's not, well, I got through that one thing and now I'm good. Or it's certainly not this, the 4-hour work week. Like in all of these 5 pillars, if I've learned anything about success in 30 years of adulthood, 50 years of life, anything that truly matters does not come easy or quick or simple. Right. None of it.
Yep. Amen.
Not one thing. And unfortunately, so we're talking about mental toughness, that's what your brain wishes. The path of least resistance. And yet the most growth usually comes from the exact opposite, the path of most resistance.
Right. We're designed the opposite of what is best for us, basically, is what it comes down to us. Exactly. Our mind is always trying to figure out how to...
to not think about anything difficult for the next 40 years until I pass away. That's what my brain...
Yeah. The Homer Simpson brain, basically.
Yes, perfect.
Exactly. Okay. And speaking of Homer Simpson, physical fitness.
The antithesis of... Now, guys, look... Let's poke the bear. Let's go straight at the white elephant in the room. Body imaging is a huge deal for the other gender, women. But it can also be a little bit of a deal for men too, right? And have any of us ever thought, gosh, I'm just not much of a man anymore because now I'm middle-aged and I don't have my 8-pack, I don't have a 6-pack, I don't have a 4-pack. The only time I have a 6-pack is when I get beers, and a 4-pack is if I get really wimpy and I get wine coolers.
Yep. Or spritzers.
And then you start to get honest with yourself and go, well, I'm 50, and technically I don't even think I had a 6-pack when I was 20. So actually I've never had. That's not what we're talking about. I mean, culturally and, with what's being spitballed around, that's what it seems like. Go be Conan the Barbarian. But really, we're talking about your physical health, your physical fitness. Your body is a shell. It's a machine. Probably this is the best analogy for guys. Cars, right? Men tend to love cars, especially some men trucks. Would you buy any car on the planet and then never change the oil? Would you buy any car on the planet and never do anything to it? no new tires, no new brakes, no new shocks, never check the battery. Worse yet, would you buy a new car and not only never do the maintenance, but then start, occasionally just putting a little bit of sand in the gas tank along with the gas? And if I ever tell that analogy to a guy, they just start going bananas right away. They're like, well, that's just asinine. Nobody in their right mind. Yet how many of us do that with our bodies?
Right, exactly.
Alcohol is the sand in your gas tank. You don't go to the gym ever because you just don't like to, or you don't have the time. You live a sedentary life, so your vehicle is never moving. And then you're wondering why your joints ache, you have headaches, you can't move around, right?
Yep.
You have your kids and you can't really enjoy trying to do activities with them because shit hurts. Stuff hurts too bad.
Yeah, that's okay. It is a family show, but we cuss once in a while. It happens.
Sometimes I get overly passionate.
No, but that's absolutely true, and this also includes eating, like you were alluding to, right? The alcohol, like what you put into your body. The physical fitness includes that. How you the sleep that you get, the exercise that you get, all that stuff is the part of physical fitness, and this, I think, is probably the number one thing that is the easiest thing when I'm working with the dads that are listening to implement quickly. Is simply as going for a walk or maybe starting to get back into the gym if you were an athlete. Like that was my big thing. I was I was a Division I athlete, and it was as you know, it's your job to be in top peak physical condition, and then that went away. So for me, it was like just getting back into the gym and starting to get my body back together with strength and stuff like that. And then on the point that we talked about, it's been, a decade of quit drinking. That was a choice that I made. Starting to eat different foods and eating right. Yeah. Figuring out my sleep cycles and how to sleep better and get healthier sleep so that I'm more refreshed. And all this was born out of the divorce, and like you alluded to, wanting to have more energy, to be chasing 3 little kids around, and wanting to be and But then it got to the point like, well, okay, this feels great. I feel great. I can not only do that, but I can work, and then I can I can socialize, and I can go play pickleball with the 20-year-olds and run them around the court and all right. And all that stuff now. So it is possible, but it's huge. And I say that to say it starts as just physically, but then it moves more into your life and mentally, and it's transformative.
Yeah. I feel like I tell people this all the time, like fitness for me is not an obligation, and it's also not a hobby. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so your point is well made about input output. So your diet counts as much as your physical training or your sleep. And I've started to wonder, like the more I do this work, the less I have answers and the more I have questions, but I think my questions get better. And so I've wondered, because I don't have any acronyms at the end of my last name, like when was it in human history that self-care, because that's kind of what we're talking about here, when did self-care become a female thing to do? And if guys did it, they're wussies. It's like, really? So you like dying young of a heart attack or getting prostate, which typically isn't a killer of men, but if you don't get screened, you could die from it. Like, or bragging about sleeping 4 hours a night. It's like, huh? So you're literally like doing damage intentionally almost or knowingly, and then turning around and bragging about the damage you're doing to yourself. Like that makes no sense.
Yeah, things have gotten sideways, most definitely around our our healthy thinking around physical fitness, and that we need to be doing this for a lifetime. And I don't know. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole. Come see Zach on the 24th. He will be around all day, and you can discuss this if you have questions about this. But maybe it's partly distraction. Maybe it's partly we've just gotten off track with the fact that we need to be moving our entire lives because of the kind of the more sedentary lifestyle that we have in our society these days. Who knows what it is? But you're definitely on spot on with the fact that we're not moving in like 40, 50, 60, 70. You need to keep doing that. You need to keep lifting the weights. You need to keep pushing your body. It's actually designed for you to do that. It's actually going to build up better and more and stronger and keep you going mentally, emotionally, physically, like for decades and decades if you do that. And you're exactly right. With the analogy of it's just a lifestyle change, right? Like it's just got to be part of your lifestyle. You just do it. That's just the way that it goes. So
you create some. I was almost going to give something away.
Yeah, don't give too much away. Let them come.
Got to come on the 24th.
Come on the 24th for sure. All right, let's wrap up with the final one. And it's interesting. It's your final one too, and it seems to be my final one as well. And I think it's one that we overlook a lot of time, and that is spiritual power.
Yeah, and wow, you talk about. We talked about money being on the 4 naughty list, things not to talk about. And so you say spiritual. So let's hit this white elephant right in the tail too. You say spiritual because that's a safe way to not say religion.
Yeah.
So we'll just go right at it there. And, full disclosure, some transparency here for guys coming in on the 24th. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian man. But I'm not an evangelical. I'm not an evangelist. I'm not here. This isn't a backhanded way to get you into marketing funnel to then convert you to whatever I think is the best way to live life from a spiritual standpoint. That's why we put that, as you read it, which I'm so happy you did. We wanted guys to know what you're not going to experience. Because sometimes that's the most important thing. You're not going to get an agenda. You're not going to be converted to some sort of belief. You're not going to be stuck in a marketing funnel so that we can try and sell you crap for decades to come. That's not what this is about. That's not health and wellness. That's not helping others. That's helping self. So spiritual power, whether it's nature, whether it's God, whether it's universe, whether you have a completely different belief from a different continent, that's your path, right? But the idea is do you understand that? Do you have a healthy respect for there could be greater powers at work, right? And I feel like as humans, especially men, we all want to know that we matter. And people way smarter than me have written a lot of books about that. And so if you're, kind of my analogy, if you're literally a grain of sand on the beach of life for the millions, if not billions of us, why are you here?
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't have to be something grandiose. So I know where culture is at. If you don't find your passion and you're not tapping into your purpose, you're a nobody. That's not what this is. It's more going back to like, if you're a janitor, be the greatest janitor that ever lived with a really great energy. And so tapping into things might be bigger. For me, I talk about providence. For me, providence is every single person you meet and every situation you're in has intent and purpose. And can we as humans sit back and observe and identify, okay, why am I on the podcast with Jude today? What's the intent and what's the purpose? And that lends itself to building empowerment from a spiritual standpoint. Right?
Yeah. So I think we need to recognize that we are all spiritual beings, and whatever that might mean to you could be different. And so I agree with you also that talking about this is incredibly important. Not talking about it is just burying your head in the sand, because if we're ignoring all this stuff, then we're ignoring a huge component of who we are. And so while we're both Christian men, right? And we both share the same the same belief system. I'm more evangelical than you probably are. But why not share that, right? It's like, so for me, it's Jesus. So, and I'm open in talking about Jesus and why I think that is the way of the life, and what's the saying? Oh God, my pastor would kill me if I can't remember these sayings all the time. That's why I'm not a pastor, because I don't, the way of the life. Yeah. But anyway, my point is, sharing this stuff is good, because, to make an analogy, if we have a great diet or a workout program or something, we're sharing it, right? Like, oh, hey, I'm on the carnivore diet. That's your physical, the physical fitness component of what you're talking about, the pillar that you're talking about. We share this stuff. Spiritually, we should be sharing this stuff with each other. Like, I talk about Jesus all the time, and it's not, and it's not like, and it's not like what you just described, which we're putting in a funnel and I'm putting you on a mailing list. But when when I'm having conversations with people, and I'll say, this is something this is what I've found has been really impactful in my life. Just like I talk about my diet or my workout routines or mental emotional stuff, or therapists, or a therapist that I like, or a book that I like, or anything else. But we ignore it with our spiritual life, and we make this so taboo. And I just don't understand it.
I totally get it. I mean, one thing that's not in the 5 pillars, so maybe it's that addendum to the 5, and it's the special 6th power, sex. Whoever came up with that rule, right? The taboo subjects are money, sex, politics, and religion. I'm like 53. I'm like, who's the numbskull that thought up this rule? Like, in our adult lives, what is even worth talking about that doesn't interact with one, if not almost all 4 of those continuously? Like, of course we need to talk about this. And I think part of what it is going on, I think, is the container. So not to do too much therapy talk, but you know this, I know this. You want to create a safe environment. So when men come to the Schoolhouse Theater in Parker on Main Street, and I just walked through the facility today. It's phenomenal, guys. It was literally built for us. It has all the right things: lobby, bar area, miniature theater that seats 200 people. It's perfect. The layout is going to be amazing. It's intimate. But when you walk in, that's why we're putting this on the flyer. You don't have to worry about, well, Zach's going to try and turn me into what he believes spiritually. No, we're not talking about the taboo subjects, because we're so divisive and we're so easily offended, and we're assuming before, words even come out of Jude's mouth, well, I know what Jude's going to try and do. No, Jude's a good guy. Jude he has what he believes, and it works for him. Maybe you want to listen to that.
Yeah,
maybe it'll
exactly.
work for you, maybe it won't. But either way, like, it's okay that we're different. There's like 7.5 billion people. Half of them are male. There's like 3 billion men on the planet, and we're all somewhat different. So let's embrace that.
Well, I'll give you I give you my reasoning as to why people don't want you and I to talk about it, is because if we're not talking about it, it divides us, right? Like you just said, then there's the judgment, and there's the doubt, and the worry, and the suspicion. And if there's, if we just have these conversations, which is not happening anymore, there's no more discourse, right? Discourse used to be the way that you figured out what other people thought, and then also honed it, what you thought and what your belief systems were as well. And now that we don't do that, or we're not supposed to do that, etc., then then what in turn you're able to do is control more people. And let's not get down on that topic, because that's a whole different podcast, and probably not a divorced advocate podcast. But you're exactly right. And so and we're not going to sell. I'm currently doing the carnivore diet, right? And I've done it before in the past and had great success. And like, we're not going to sell you the carnivore diet, but I'm going to talk to you about it, right? I'm going to maybe talk to you about the benefits I've found in 12-step programs that I've worked through. It doesn't mean that it is good for you, but it's helped me, and it's helped millions of other people. So, talking about the spiritual part of it is really important, and sex. And so that's what you guys are going to be doing on August 24th. I'm going to read some of the other. We're going to have a couple of other guys on over the next couple of weeks, but some of the other talks are sexual sovereignty. Okay, you're going to blow out that taboo topic, and then sovereign thinking. Living authentically as a man in today's world. Oh, that's a big one. Craig's going to talk about the emotional intelligence for men. So these are all awesome topics. You guys are going to hit on a lot of the stuff that we need to be talking about together as men. In an environment like that, where it's a space where it's only going to be men talking about men, experienced men, young men of all ages that are going to be there. So
yeah, absolutely, guys. Like whether you're 20, 40, or 60, and we have 2 price points. So $37 is the adult ticket. And then what we realize is, we talk about mentorship, but what are we doing about mentorship? And we've mentioned several times on this podcast who teaches us. So we have a teen price. So 13 to 18 is classified as teen. That's 23. Now they can't come by themselves. So this isn't a parent just dropping a teen off and then 9 hours later picking back up, right? He needs to be chaperoned, or, hopefully in a perfect world, he's with his dad, right? And brought by his father. But yeah, no matter your age, no matter your level of experience, whether you think you're a master or you're a complete novice, I think you'll find something valuable in that day for sure. I know you will.
Yep. So August 24th here in Parker, Colorado, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. There's going to be breakfast. You guys are going to have vendors that cater to men that are going to be there. There's going to be workshops, or not workshops, but all the talks, stories, challenges. It's going to be awesome. And I do like what I want to also say what you say won't be there as well, because you and I have both done lots of like personal development workshops and stuff. There's not going to be any shaming, no guilt trips, no preaching, no politics, no anti-feminine rhetoric, no alt-left or alt-right agendas, no testosterone outbursts or boot camp attitudes. So it's just going to be and I'm just telling you guys, there's just going to be a lot of great dudes there. I know all of you guys that are putting this on, and all of the speakers as well. It is just going to be an awesome event to experience. So check it out. And so, what is the website where they can go to get information and get tickets?
You want to go to our landing page. So we developed a specific landing page for this event. It's menempowerment.net. So you click on that landing page and you can immediately slide in. You just click on the link that says buy tickets here. Get one, get multiple. We'd love to see you there, guys.
menempowerment.net. menempowerment.net. I'll have it in the show notes as well. Beautiful. And then lastly, where can the listeners connect with you and BeMen?
Oh yeah, sure. Great question. So obviously the 3 W's, BeMen.org. And if you'd like to email me, Zach@BeMen.org. And off of our website, you can find us. We are on Twitter, we are on Instagram. And for those who, you're curious enough that you'd like to experience a little bit more, off the website, you can get involved. We have an open group Facebook community. And that's where you can, keep up to speed and up to date on these monthly events, an event like this, but ongoing things, right? And get filled with encouraging words and thoughts and men-related stuff throughout the year.
Zach, my friend, such a blessing to have you on the show. I sincerely appreciate you being here. Always good to see you.
You too, Jude. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for who you are. Thanks for what you're doing. It matters.
Yeah, man. And those listening, if you found some value in what you heard today, please share this episode far and wide. Give us a star rating, or even better, give us some comments on whatever platform you are listening to. Have a phenomenal week, and God bless. We will talk to you next week. To hear the rest of this episode and access the corresponding resources, visit thedivorcedadvocate.com and become a member of our community. It's free to join and will provide you with the resources you deserve as a divorced or divorcing dad. Thank you for listening. God bless, and I'll talk with you next week.